So we'll start today with module 3. This is the last module which we are left with in the syllabus. And this module is an extension of module 1 and 2. So very quick recap about module 1 and 2. Module 1 deals with random variables, what they are, what are the properties of the random variables, which includes the PDF and the CDF, how we define them, and then additionally how to find the expectations of those random variables. Right? This is extended in module 2, where we deal with the multiple random variables, specifically the bivariate random variables. So instead of a single random variable, we have two random variables. Right? The rest of the process and the properties were the same, where we have the PDF, CDF, the expectations, that is mean and variance. And we saw very important properties of dependence and correlation. Okay. Thereon we saw what happens if these random variables are independent and identical, and by the virtue of central limit theorem, we come to know that all these PDFs will converge towards a Gaussian distribution. Okay. So this is what we have done in the two modules, that is module 1 and module 2. Module 3 is again an extension of those two modules, and it deals with what is known as random process. So it's a little tricky concept to understand, in the sense that things become more complicated, as you could imagine, but it is an extension of the first two modules. That is, it takes a lot of properties from single random variables and bivariate random variables. And as you can see by the words, it says random process. So here we are dealing with a bunch of random variables, right? So till now we have only dealt with one random variable or two random variables, bivariate, but now we'll deal with the n number of random variables, right? So before we go into the details, what is the motivation of doing random process? Okay, the motivation is if you take let's say a very simple communication system. Okay, so let me draw that. If you take a transmitter, okay, and then you have a channel, and then you have a receiver, right? Now, at the transmitter, you have the data. That means this is the data that you wish to transmit, right? And if everything is ideal, for example, if this entire chain, transmitter, channel, and receiver, is a black box, and if it is ideal in nature, then you would expect that that data which you want to transmit is also received at the receiver here, right? So let me just denote it mathematically. So if I transmit S of t to through a transmitter, which is connected to a channel, which is then connected to a receiver. For an ideal scenario, I would expect S of t at the output of the receiver. Right? However, that is not going to happen, because at the channel, now this channel can be a lot of things. For example, if we take our phone, for example, okay, if we take a stock, for example, Ethernet cable. If you are into geo fibers, right? If you want to take even higher bandwidth channels, it could be a satellite channel. Right? So this channel could be a lot of variants, which I have just mentioned, like wireless LAN, optical fiber, satellite. Right? Now the problem that happens is there's going to be a lot of noise, which is going to be affecting S of t. Right? So let me denote this noise as some n of t. Right? So what is going to happen at the output of the channel is you will get S of t plus n of t. Right? This we are assuming that the channel is an additive channel. Okay, the channel could also be a multiplicative channel, we do not know. But assuming it is an additive channel, you'll get at the output of the channel S of t plus n of t. Therefore, the output of the receiver also becomes S of t plus n of t. However, this is not the signal that we want to transmit. The signal that we wish to transmit was S of t. Right? So this signal which we wanted to transmit, and this signal which we are receiving, there is obviously a problem, right? They do not match. So we need to have some processes by which we can analyze, and then we could probably try and minimize n of t. We can never get rid of n of t. Please understand that we can never not have noise, right? And noise is just a random process, right? Anytime, for example, now we are communicating, and there could be a third person screaming. That is noise. There could be a lot of background noise, right? So noise is again a random process, right? So why I'm explaining this to you right now, this would also be explained to you in any communication engineering class, but it is important to understand that this S of t is random, because right now you may have data to transmit, but tomorrow you may not have any data to transmit. So it's a random scenario, it's a random process. N of t obviously is random, right? It may be there at any time, it may not be there at any time. Therefore, the output which you get at the output of the receiver is also a random, right? And all of this is a process. Why? Because today you may have S1 of t to transmit. Next moment you may have S2 of t to transmit. Then you have S3 of t. So practically you may have an audio to transmit. Next moment you have a video to transmit. Then you have text to transmit. Right? So you can imagine S1, S2, S3, right? This noise is again, let's say N1 of t, which is let's say sound of some motor, right? N2 of t, which is let's say lightning, for example. N3 of t, let's say another human being who is screaming, right? So all of this is a bunch of random variables, right? And together they make a process. So noise also becomes a process. Data which you want to transmit also becomes a process. Therefore, the received signal that you get at the output of the receiver also becomes a random process. Right? So this is the idea behind why we should even talk about this random process. Right? It's a very important concept. Okay, and it really helps us in understanding a lot of issues in communication engineering in general. Okay. So you're always going to be dealing with this noise and transmitted signal, received signal. So that is what we are trying to do here in this particular module. Okay, and it just gives you an insight and into the basics of random processes. It does not go into the depth of it. You'll go into the depth of it in any communication system or communication engineering course, like digital communication or principles of communication systems, so on and so forth. Right. So let's first try to understand what this randomness actually is. Okay. So you are already undergoing a course on signals and systems. So you must know that any signal which we denote as some x of t, this can be deterministic, right? What do you mean by a deterministic signal? An example would be a DC signal, right? Why a DC signal is deterministic? Because if I draw this as a graph, let the y-axis be voltage, then DC signal is just like this. And let's take an example of 5 volt. So I know that every instant T1, T2, T3, whichever instant of time I take, 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock, it doesn't matter. This signal is always going to be constant, right? So when I'm charging my laptop or charging my mobile phone, I don't really have to worry about it because the charger is going to give me a constant DC voltage. If you take the example of mobile, it will be somewhere around 3.5, 3.6 volt DC signal, right? It cannot be AC because it is going to destroy your appliance, right? Your mobile phone or laptop. Okay. So this is a constant deterministic signal because I can determine it. I know its value is always going to be constant at all times. Right? Another example which we have is known as thermal noise. Sorry, this thermal noise is not deterministic. So let me use that in the other example. So this signal x of t, you have a deterministic signal like a DC signal. The other example, the other kind of signal which you can have is non-deterministic, right? Another name for non-deterministic is random. The reason being that you cannot say its value is constant. So if I want to give you an example of this is if you hold a resistor in your hand, right, and if you take its two legs and measure its resistance, let's say if the resistance value is 1 kilo ohm, if I know it theoretically by color coding, but if you see it on the multimeter, it will not be 1 kilo ohm. It will be fluctuating somewhere a little lower or higher than 1 kilo ohm. The reason for that is your hand, when you're holding the resistance, the resistor in your hand, there is some temperature which is affecting that resistance. The reason for that is what is known as thermal noise. Okay, and this noise has an equation 4kT B divided by RL. I'm not going to define what is K, B, and RL. I'm just going to show that this is temperature here, right? So this temperature here really affects the noise, whether it increases or decreases, and hence you get that kind of a resistance value. Right? So this kind of a signal is known as a non-deterministic or random signal because its value changes from time to time. In this case, the example which I've given you, in that it will also depend on who is holding the resistance. Right? So if you have a colder hand, you will get a different value and so on. Right? So these are nothing but random variables, and these random variables, these are functions of independent variables or time. So when we write a signal, say x of t here, x is the value, right, and t is what is the value at that time, right? So if I take t1, then x of t1 will give the value at time t1. If I take t2, then what is the value at time t2, and so on and so forth, right? So this will, if it is an AC signal, it will be fluctuating. It will have a different value. If it is DC, then constant, right? So these are the two kinds of signals or processes which we can have, which is a deterministic or a non-deterministic signal or process. So now let's formally define what is a random process. Okay, so random process basically is a collection or ensemble. Okay, ensemble is another word for collection. So it is a collection or ensemble of function or sequence with a probability assigned to it. With a probability assigned to it. Assigned to it, what is it? It is the function or the sequence, right? And when a random variable, I'll write in short RV, when a random variable is function of one independent variable, for example, say time, okay, time t, this independent variable time t, then x of t is called as random process. X of t is called as random process. Right? So it is nothing but collection of these random variables. Right? If you want an easier definition, then we have a little easier definition with the same meaning, right? It is also, so random process, I'll write in short, Rp is a function of two or more independent variables. So if I want to write this mathematically, if Z is the random process, then it will be a function of, let's say, one variable y and the other is time. So t, so let t be the time and let y be, let's say, for example, voltage, right? So this random process will have its value dependent on both voltage as well as time, right? Here you have to be careful. Random variable is a function only of one variable, right? Whereas process now becomes a function of independent, two or more independent variables. These variables can be more in number as well, right? So an example of this, if I want to show you an example of this, then this would be, let's say, an example. If we take time, right? So let this signal look like this. Okay, it's a random signal. and this will be, each of them will be a random variable. So this will be x1 of t, this will be x2 of t, this will be x3 of t. A collection of all this, will make it a random process, right? So a group of signals where portion of it is taken and that becomes random in nature. So you can see here that x1, right? If I put timing here to make it clearer, you have time t1 and time t2. So x1 of t between time t1 and t2 has a different value. x2 of t between time t2 and t3 has different values, and x3 of t between t3 and t4 has different values, right? So all of them is a different random variable, and the collection of this, so the final x of t will be a collection of x1 of t, x2 of t, x3 of t, and so on till xn of t, right? So all this collection becomes the random variable. Okay. Similarly, you have different examples as well. So I will constrain myself to this kind of an example, and we will proceed with what we have to understand for random process, and then we'll look at more applications later. Right? However, in the notes, other applications are also mentioned here. Okay. With this random variable, what we need to see is, as we did in the random variables case, right? We understood what is the random variable, and then we just jumped towards the CDF and the PDF, because that is the most important aspect through which we can always, define a random variable. So we'll do the same here, and we will try and find the PDF of random processes. Okay, so I'm writing in short, please get used to that. So RV will be the random variable, RP will be the random process, and PDF we already know, probability density function. Okay, so here for the PDF, let me first take the univariate case. So univariate will mean just one, okay, and you'll understand what it is, right? So uh, let's take this example as fx of 0, and the value is x, right? And in this case, this will always be greater than or equal to 0 for minus infinity less than x less than infinity. You'll understand. Let me write the next step. You'll understand, right? You can also write this as fx of t of x greater than or equal to 0 for negative infinity less than x less than infinity. Okay, so what does these two equations mean, right? The first equation means that whatever sample you are taking, right, whatever sample you are taking from the collection, right? So let's try to understand these wording. So you can see here in this graph which I have made here, this graph, this is a collection, right? And we can take samples. Now what are these samples? First sample is x1 of t, right, which is between T1 and T2. The second sample is X2 of T between T2 and T3, and so on, right? So we can take samples from this collection, right? So now coming back to these equations, what does this first equation imply, right? What does this first equation imply? This one here, right? Fx of 0 of x greater than 0. It means that when you take this sample function, the values of that sample function, right, at t equal to 0, that's why I've put 0 here. At t equal to 0, that's how we are defining the PDF, right, is always going to be greater than or equal to 0, right? Okay. The next part is, right, if we take at any particular time t, right, so you can see the difference. First is 0, the other one is t. So if we take at any instant of time t, then in that case also the PDF is always going to be greater than or equal to 0, right? So the PDF is always going to be greater than or equal to 0. Now let us extend this to a bivariate case, right? So you are already aware of what is the bivariate, is where you have two values. So now instead of just one time, I'll be taking two timings, right? So we can write this as fx t1 x t2 and x1 comma x2. Now you can see the difference here. this will be greater than or equal to 0 for both x1 comma x2 less than or equal to or between minus and plus infinity, right? You can, I have taken the case as x for various t1. You can also take two variables, so we can write this as fx t1 y t2 of x comma y greater than or equal to 0 for negative infinity less than x comma y less than infinity, right? So you can see the difference between the univariate case and the bivariate case, right? So in the univariate case, we had only one random variable, whereas for the bivariate case, we are dealing with two random variables. Okay, you can extend this to a more generic multivariate case, and in this case we can write the equation. You can write the equation yourself. The equation will be fx of t1, x of t2, x of tn till x1 comma x2 comma all the way till xn, and this will be greater than or equal to 0 for negative infinity less than x1 x2 all the way till xn less than infinity, right? So this will be the multivariate case. I do understand that these are generic equations. We want to see how we can use them in numericals, and that we will be doing very soon, right? So we'll try to understand how we can use these aspects in the numerical, right? Now, so this is how we can write the PDF. Once we solve a numerical, you'll understand exactly how we can use it, right? So we have seen a univariate case where you had one random process, you take a sample and then find the value. The bivariate case where you take multiple random variables and then find it, and then you have a multivariate case, right? Now, a very important concept which comes in the random process is independence of random processes, right? So before we go into this random process, just to recap, if you have fxy of x comma y, which is a bivariate PDF, if x and y are independent, then this is nothing but fx of x dot fy of y. That is the product of individual PDFs will give the joint PDF in the case when the random variables are independent. Okay, so let me erase that and let's see what is the case when the random processes are independent. Okay, so let us assume n is 2. So we are taking a bivariate case. So let me write the PDF. The PDF is fx of t1, x of t2, and you have x1 comma x2, right? Therefore, when they are independent, I can write them as fx of t1 of x1 dot fx of t2 into x2, right? So you can see what has happened here. We are taking a joint PDF, right? On the left hand side, this is a joint PDF, right? And these are individual PDFs. These are individual PDFs, right? So again, it is the same case. If you want to extend this to a case of n equal to 3, then you'll have fx of t1, x of t2, x of t3, and you have x1 comma x2 comma x3. And if they are independent, then you'll have fx of t1 x1 dot fx of t2 x2 dot fx of t3 x3, right? So that's how the independence will go on, right? Here I have only taken x1 x2 x3. You can also take x y z and so on, right? So the definition remains the same, that the joint PDF of the random process, if they are independent, then it will just be a product of individual PDFs of the random processes. Okay. Okay, so I'm just giving you the concepts and the important properties of the random processes, which is same as the random variables what we had done. We will of course solve numericals and see how we can apply these aspects. Okay. Next aspect is expectations of random processes. Okay. So you may feel that I'm going a little fast, but you can see that all of this is just an extension of what we have done in the random variables. Okay, so it's not something which is new. It is just an extension, because random process is also an extension of the random variables. Okay, so uh, let's first focus on the mean. So expectations would mean mean and variance. So if you want to find E of x of t, then that is also mu x of t. Then it is nothing but negative to positive infinity fx of x dx. Right? That is how we find the mean, right? And this remains the same for the random process. The only difference is we write this as x fx t of x dx. This x of t here denotes random process, because it is x of t. It's an entire process which is having different values at different instants of time, right? So that's how we can calculate the mean. Now when it comes to the variance, sigma square x of t. So you can see I am writing x of t here, which can also be written as variance of x of t will be negative to positive infinity, and by definition x minus mu x of t the whole square fx of t of x dx, right? So this definition is same as that for the random variable. So I'll just write below what we had for random variable. We had x minus mu x the whole square fx of x dx with an integral, right? The bottom one here is for the random variable, right? And what I have done is I've just extended it by writing mu x of t and fx of t of x, right? So that denotes the random process, right? So the reason is the mean and variance of a random process will depend on time, okay, which is not the case with the random variable. But for the process, it is going to depend on time, because the PDF itself depends on time, right? So you have fxt of x dx, right? So since the PDF depends on time, the mean and variance is also going to depend on time. So I'll just write this here so it remains on the recording. So mean and variance of random process depends on time, since PDF of random process depends on time. Okay, so this is an important property that we have for mean and variance. So let's see what happens to this mean and variance in the bivariate case. So if you have a bivariate case, okay, so I'll take the two random variables. So let me calculate E of x of t1, x of t2. So when we do this, we'll have negative to positive infinity integral. Then you have two values x1, x2, fx t1, x t2, and you have x1 comma x2, right? And you have the variables dx1, dx1, dx2. So you can view it this way, right? This x1 of t is this x1, right? And this x of t2 is this value x2. Okay, so that's how we can calculate the value for the mean value. You can use the same equation for variance as well. So if I want to calculate E of let's say x of t1 and y of t2, I'm removing x1 and x2 and I'm just writing x and y. Then the equation is same, negative to positive infinity. You'll have xy fx t1 y t2 of x comma y dx dy. Right? So the equation remains the same. Okay, only just we are taking the values for x and y. In the earlier case, I had taken x1 and x2. Right? So I should write this here at x1 and here as x2. Okay. So till now, everything that we just discussed was an extension of what we have done for the in the case of random variables, right? However, there are some aspects which are new in the case of random processes, and we want to understand those new aspects as well. And then once we are confident with those aspects as well, we can go ahead and solve the numericals based on that. Okay. So very important concept which comes in the case of random process is known as stationarity. This is a very important concept, and whenever we speak about a random process, we always try to understand whether this random process is stationary or is it non-stationary. Okay? So that is always our aim, and depending on the application, we deal with this stationary random process or a non-stationary random process. Okay? So in general, most of the random processes which we encounter in practice are stationary in nature. Okay. So what do we mean by stationary? In stationarity, the statistical properties, remain same at all times. So time will be changing, but the statistical properties will remain the same. What do you mean by that? It means expectations, and by expectations I mean mean and variance, right? Expectations are invariant. Expectations are invariant with changes in time. Very important property, right? So you are already doing LTI systems. You have linear time invariant system where you would have understood that any signal which does not vary with time will be the time invariant system, right? So similarly, expectations are invariant with changes in time. So time can be changing t1, t2, t3, all the way till tn, but the expectation values will remain constant. So if you found the mean value as 2, it will remain 2 forever for a stationary random process, right? Therefore, a consequence of property number 2 is that PDFs must also be time invariant. PDFs must also be time invariant, right? Because you're calculating the expectations from the PDF only. So if you want the expectations to be invariant with time, obviously the PDF also has to be invariant with time, right? So we are always interested in a stationary random process, because as you can see, it really helps us out with a lot of things. Its properties remain the same, with all the times. Okay. So within this stationarity, we have a couple of variants. So let's discuss that. Okay. So the first variant what we have in terms of stationarity, okay, it is known as stationarity of order n. This is also known as strict sense stationary. Strict sense stationary. Okay. So stationarity of order n, or in general, you will always hear people, or in the book, it will always be mentioned as strict sense stationary. So this is one type of stationary random process, right? So we are dealing with stationarity of order n, which implies that we are dealing with a multivariate kind of random process. Therefore, the PDF must also be a multivariate PDF, right? So let us assume a multivariate PDF with a shift of Ts in time, right? So you'll see when I write the equation, what is happening to the time. Okay. So I'll write this as f x of T1 plus Ts, right? I've shifted time T1 by Ts into T2 plus Ts and so on till x of some Tn plus Ts. Okay. So original PDF which we have is f x of T1, x of T2, x of Tn. I've just shifted all of this with time, and the values are x1, x2, x. Please do not shift the values. The values are constant values, x1, x2, xn, right? We are only shifting the time, right? Therefore, what is going to happen for a strict sense stationary, right? Even if you shift the PDF, it will always be equal to fx of T1, x of T2, all the way till x of Tn, and you'll have x1, x2, all the way till x. Right? This will be the case for a strict sense stationary random process. So you can see what is happening on the LHS. We have shifted the time by Ts. However, on the RHS, you can see that nothing has happened to the PDF. It remains the same, right? So in this case, if we take order 1, that means initially we had considered order n. Now if we consider just order 1, that means a univariate case, then I will rewrite the LHS. So this will be fx T1 plus Ts. Since it is order 1, we'll have only one x of T1, x1, and this will be equal to fx T1 of x1. Therefore, this is nothing but fx of x, right? So the PDF is independent of any time shift, right? So for a strict sense stationary random process, the PDF is independent of time, right? That is what we had written in those 3 points. Once the PDF is independent of time, obviously the expectations will also be independent of time. Therefore, in this case, the mean, right, for a strict sense stationary process, the mean mu x of t will be just mu x, and the variance sigma square x of t will just be sigma square x, right? So time will have no role to play for a strict sense stationary random process. Okay, and most of the random processes which we encounter, as I mentioned, will be you know, a strict sense random process, will be a strict sense random process. Okay. The other kind of random process which we generally encounter, okay, is known as, so let me write 2, is known as wide sense stationary random process. Okay. This also occurs a lot in practice. Okay. And this basically will occur mostly in cases of wireless communication. Okay, so I'm not going into the examples because it is too early for us to understand those examples. But what happens with the wide sense stationary random process is it states 2 expectations. So the first is E of x of t is mu x, and E of x of t1, x of t2. If you have 2 random variables at different times, then this is just E of x of t, x of t plus some tau, okay, and this tau here and this tau here is time difference. And this tau here is time difference. Specifically, tau is T2 minus T1. T2 minus T1. Tau is T2 minus T1. So for a wide sense stationary process, the expectation when you have two random processes, the expectation will be the expectation of the random variable as time t and the expectation of the random process at time t plus tau. That is just a extension. Okay, that is the time difference. Now, in case of e of x of t, x of t plus tau, right? We can also write this as e of x of t, x of t plus 0, right? If t2 minus t1 equal to 0, that is tau equal to 0. If tau happens to be 0, right, then what happens, right? So in this case, I have substituted uh, tau as 0, right? Therefore, you can see what will happen. You will get e of x of t, x of t, which is nothing but e of x square of t, right? And we know that sigma x square is e of x square minus mu x the whole square. Therefore, e of x square is sigma x square plus mu x square. If I take mu x on that side, therefore this equation here I can rewrite as sigma x square plus mu x square. So for tau equal to 0, if there is no time difference, the expectation is just the sum of the variance and the square of the mean value, right? So here we can have strict sense stationary, or we can have a wide sense stationary random process, right? And there are processes which are given based on which we need to find if they are strict sense stationary or wide sense stationary. There are also numericals over which they ask us if the random process is wide sense stationary, what happens further, right? So we should be ready for both kinds of numericals in that sense, right? So again, I already mentioned, once we solve numericals based on this, you'll understand what exactly we are trying to do here. Okay, so uh, let me also do one last part for the day today, and then we'll close it. Okay, we'll just quickly recap also after that. Okay. So let me take this for a bivariate case. For a bivariate case, okay, and let me write the PDF, which is fx of t1 plus ts, where ts is the shift in time, okay, x of t2 plus ts, right? Since it is bivariate, I'll have two values, and you have x1 comma x2, okay, and for a strict sense stationary, so if we take the case of strict sense stationary random process, okay, so I've given you the short form there. In many books and over the internet, you will see this SSSRP, that is strict sense stationary random process. The other short form we can write is wide sense stationary random process, WSS and SSS. Okay. So if you assume this to be a strict sense stationary, then this will just be fx of t1, x of t2, and you'll have x1 comma x2. Right? So why have I written the RHS like that? Because for a strict sense stationary process, shift in time does not affect the random process, right? You can shift the timing, but the random process remains the same, right? So now let T1 plus Ts let me call this some t, right? Therefore, Ts is t minus t1, right? And the range will be between plus and minus infinity. Time we do not constrain. Okay. Also, let T2 plus Ts be a value. So if I want to find this, then I can substitute for Ts, which is T2 plus, I'll take this Ts here. So you'll get T minus T1. Therefore, T2 plus Ts is T plus T2 minus T1, right? And let this T2 minus T1 equal to some tau, right? Therefore, T2 plus Ts is T plus tau. And this tau is known as time difference. Is known as time difference. Is known as time difference. Okay, so having done this, now I can rewrite that PDF. So we have fx of t1 plus ts, x of t2 plus ts, and x1 comma x2, and I can now write this as f x of t, because t1 is t, I have assumed it, x of t2, and t2 is t plus tau, t2 plus ts is t plus tau, and x1 comma x2, x1 comma x2, right? Or we can also write this as f x of t1, x of t2, x1 comma x2, and this will be f x of t, x of t plus tau into, or the value x1 comma x, right? So basically it means that this bivariate PDF depends only on time difference. So you can see here, it depends only on time difference tau here. Okay. So this time difference is going to be very important for us. Okay. In the next lecture, we will be talking about this time difference. Okay. And we will see how this time difference is going to affect. Okay, so we'll see what is the value of this time difference. Okay, so I'll just quickly recap what we have done today. We started with what is the idea of random process. Okay, we discussed about deterministic random process. We discussed about a non-deterministic random process. What is a random process? Okay, it is a collection of the random variables. And then we looked at the PDF of a random process, univariate case, bivariate case, multivariate case. What is independence? It turns out that the independence of random variable is process is same as that of the variable. So it will be the multiplication of individual PDFs. What is expectations of random processes? Okay, just an extension. And then the stationarity. This is very, very important. We need to understand, right? So a strict sense stationary random process will have its statistical properties same as that of it does not vary with time. It will be same, it will be constant, and therefore the PDF will also be invariant with time. Okay, and we saw what is a wide sense stationary random process. Okay, tomorrow's lecture will be very, very important because we'll be talking about correlation functions amongst random process. We'll be talking about a very important function known as autocorrelation function, and we'll also start solving numericals on the random process. Okay. Similarly, we'll also see covariance because we are dealing with random processes. Then we'll look at addition and multiplication of random process. So what happens if two random variables are multiplied, two random variables are added, right? And then after having done that, the last part of this will take us towards frequency, where we will have to apply Fourier transform and try to see what happens to random processes in the frequency domain.